I can't wait for this. And we're back at it again with another live one for all you Bi-Conics wrestling nerds out there. And welcome to another episode of the Bi-Conics Wrestling Podcast, where it's like all our regular reviews except more unhinged. Oh man, I'm super excited for tonight's episode. Joining me tonight is the freshman squad, as I have dubbed them, still working on the name, because they are some of our newest members here at the Bi-Conics. I say newest, but they've been here for almost a month or two now, so they're pretty much already in the trenches with us with everything that we're doing. But first and foremost, joining us tonight, my co-host for Ring of Honor and for Impact Wrestling, Andrew. Welcome back to another episode.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, it's two in a row for the podcast episodes.
I love it, love it. And joining us for the first time on the podcast, at least, we have one of our newer members, Mr. Macho Rodriguez himself, aka Luis. My friend, this is your first podcast episode. Welcome.
Oh, thank you very much, man. I haven't had a cherry since high school, so that's pretty cool.
Listen, we how far are we at? You know what? We're not monetized yet. So yeah, we're
All
popping
right.
your podcast cherry here on this one. So it's
Yeah,
gonna
there
be a
you
good
go.
time.
I'm excited. Let's do it.
We're gonna take it nice and slow, I promise.
Got it.
We're junior high boys here. It's great. Uh, as I mentioned before, I'm really excited about this episode because this episode was inspired by not only an AEW pay-per-view that has been currently going on for 2 years, but one of my other co-hosts be like, "Hey, in your world where pretty much all the promotions work with each other, who would you like to see wrestle who and all that kind of stuff?" And I'm like, "You know what? I have thought about it like way too much apparently. Like this is something I think about all the time when I do fantasy booking in my head. But now that we have a platform, we're going to put it out there and this is going to be great. So tonight what we're going to be doing is that the three of us are going to be creating our own forbidden door, so to speak. And the parameters of this is we were given some categories that we needed to fill, and we're going to create our own Wrestle Dream / Forbidden Door card with all the wrestlers from all different promotions. No holds bar, all that stuff. And I'll get into the nitty gritty of the rule set and what each of us had to follow. But really quickly, boys, this week in wrestling, because by the time this goes up, it will still be relevant. Um, Wrestling has been kind of crazy this week.
Yeah, it has been. It's been pretty good. I thought this was the best SmackDown we've had in past 6 months, maybe.
Okay, so briefly, I do want to talk about that. So, the SmackDown review which will be out later. Uh, this SmackDown was interesting in the sense that it's the return of Roman Reigns. We also have our general managers are coming back in WWE now. Mickey James's husband, Nick Aldis, is the general manager for SmackDown, which has me excited. I love Nick Aldis. Let's see. Everyone on the internet lost their mind because Jade and Charlotte Flair had a backstage interaction,
As they should have.
and I may or may not have used that as the thumbnail for the episode. Just
There you go.
saying.
That's pretty cool.
Because that was the best women's segment we got because Bailey versus Zelina was a thing.
Their segment backstage was really solid, though.
Yeah, the segment backstage was a lot of fun. Match was really short.
Yeah.
For Zelina Vega, I love you, girl, but that 619 was not great, and the Rose Plant was not great by Bailey either. But other than that, it was great. Karma came and bit Vince McMahon in the ass this week because, Triple H, got granted creative control over Raw and SmackDown, and Vince is reportedly, allegedly, not involved in the creative process. Which I'm just saying. Normally, I don't think people should lose their job, but in the case of Vince McMahon not being in control of creative, that is a miracle in itself. So, Hallelujah, praise the wrestling gods.
Yeah.
Let's see. And then yeah, wrestling in general has been pretty good this week. Um I guess the only negative critique I have is that Impact Wrestling, I love you, but we need this build to Bound for Glory has not been it. It has not been it.
Yeah.
And this year so far has been like like the B shows have always had a kind of iffy build, but then the payoffs have been really good.
Yeah.
And then the builds towards your bigger pay-per-views for all the companies this year have been not great.
Well, and if Bound for Glory, like, I mean, I hope it lives up to what it can do, but you can't really say live up to the hype because there hasn't been much hype put into it. And if it doesn't deliver on some of the things that they should deliver on, like, it's going to put them in a rough spot after I don't think, the 1000th episode really hit like it, sure,
Oh my
both of the episodes, I
god.
guess, so yeah, I hope they do well because they could have some really cool things coming out of Bound for Glory, but they haven't really sold me on it yet.
Which is unfortunate. So I finally found the image that I wanted to. So on paper, this card is very stellar. Like this is what we have. So obviously you have Impact's version of the Royal Rumble, which is the Call Your Shot Gauntlet, which is everybody who's not involved in a match is going to be involved here. I don't know how I feel, and we talked about it on the Impact review. Dirty Dango being the last one to go in, and then Jake something has to be the one to. I hope Jake wins. Like as of right now, I want him or Jordan Grace to win. Like those are my two options. And then everything else on paper looks stellar. You have Masha Slamovich and Killer Kelly defending their titles against Tasha Steeles and Deanna Purrazzo.
Mm.
You have the four-way Monsters Ball between PCO, Rhino, Steve Macklin, and Moose. Thankfully, it's not for the briefcase, which I was worried about. So Chris Sabin versus Kenta is what I'm excited for, but again, it's hard when Kenta's not there and no promo from him either, which is hard to do. You have the Rascals versus ABC, which is a section of the Bullet Club represented by Ace Austin and Chris Bay. I love Chris Bay, by the way. He's great. Trinity versus Mickey James for the Knockouts Championship. And then your main event, Alex Shelley defending his title against Josh Alexander. Like, on paper, this is stellar. Just the build to it has been trash. Like, I was like, what is happening? Ugh.
Mhm.
And it makes me irrationally irritated because I'm like, you guys, I understand not every match can be built perfectly, but literally this past week at Impact, minus the men's tag team championships, nothing else really got progressed towards it. We didn't even have Trinity or Mickey James in any capacity this past weekend. That's your main women's title match right there. I don't know, man.
Maybe this is Mickey's goodbye before she makes her way back to the machine.
And we kind of talked about it in our group chat because Mickey James, as to my knowledge, is still involved with NWA Power as like their female kind of led coordinator for the women's division.
Mhm.
But with her husband being back in SmackDown, the question got thrown about would James return to WWE? And I think without Vince there, probably. But it's
Mhm.
up to Mickey because when she got let go and just
It's gonna take a hell of a lot more than that paycheck to get over that trash bag.
that let me tell you, that trash bag incident was not okay. I was like, that was horrible. I was like, how do you send her stuff in a trash bag? That's oof.
Not for a legend. I couldn't imagine them doing shit like that to Lita, Victoria, Sable.
Trish.
They would never. Trish, yeah. Oh, yeah. Trish has a lifetime contract. She's not going anywhere.
I mean, and I would say out of that whole incident, Mickey James kind of got the last laugh with that because she got let go. Her stuff got thrown in the trash bag and was given back to her. And then when they let all their women go and they realized, oh crap, we don't have enough women for the Royal Rumble, then they reached out to everybody and they're like, Mickey, can you come in and do this? And I bet she was the one to be like, I'll come back, but you have to announce me as the Impact Women's Champion. And that's exactly what they did. They played her hardcore country theme song
Hmm.
from Impact. She had the title around her waist when she was walking in. And on the placard as she was making her entrance into the Rumble was Impact Knockouts champion Mickey James. I was just like, she got the last laugh. I'm like, that's how you win.
That's right. I mean, she also won another way because she got one of the most horrific backstage people in WWE history fired in Mark Carrano. That
Ooh,
really
that is
what
also very
happened
true.
because listen, my wife made me watch all those Total Divas episodes, and when Brian watched, when Brian was on, I'm not gonna lie, I watched just because he was on. But that dude, he always came off as just really, really bad for business. Like as someone who's almost 40 and grew up watching people like Pat Patterson, Gerald Briscoe, Jim Cornette, I never saw anybody backstage the way this guy was. Never. So I'm glad she was able to get her comeuppance there.
Well, and she's doing so much. Like she's done so much since she was, let go from WWE, and she's had such a no pun intended, but impact in her career since leaving. I feel like if she's able to continue doing what she's doing, it seems like she'll be much happier doing that. And
Hmm.
she's able to work with so many classic stars, but like we just had all come back for Impact, but also
Hmm.
she's able to work with so many upcoming performers
Agreed.
that she can just lend, her experience and talent to. So
100%. I mean, one of the women that I believe is going to be a legend in the business, and Deanna Perrazzo. I think her getting to mentor or getting mentored by Mickey James, I think is, I mean, it's spectacular, just absolutely spectacular. We didn't really get to see this version of Deanna when she was with Marty, but when he kind of went away with the whole like stuff, like whatever happened, like she was able to just showcase herself, and she's been amazing. It's the one thing that I miss, that I feel like is missing from Chelsea, is having Deanna with her. That's the one thing I feel like is missing.
Oh, my goodness, that the tag team of her and Chelsea were great. And I miss a whole bunch of them too. Like before, so I love the knockout tag team division that we have currently, but a year ago, like I thought that knockouts division was great because you had the team of like Tennille Dashwood and Madison Rain. You had you formerly known as the Iconics. You had the Inspiration, which was fantastic when they debuted at Bound for Glory. I mean,
Hmm.
even the trios of the Death Dolls between Jessica, Rosemary, and Taya Valkyrie before she went over to AEW was fantastic. That's another one I'm so sad for. I'm like, oh Taya, what are they doing with you? And it makes me mad. Her and her husband. How do you mess this up, you guys?
I'm so glad you brought up Johnny Impact. I was just talking about this on a recent podcast I was doing. What did this man possibly do to not be a top star in this business? He wins tough enough, right? He grows his brand. He develops this amazing gimmick that he's going to be Johnny Gimmick, pretty much Johnny Gimmick. It works. He steals like this John Morrison stuff, right? And it works beautifully. He's a phenomenal in-ring performer. He looks great with anybody he's in there with. He's a great talker. I don't understand what he did, how he can't catch on in just one place and be the main star. Like I even agreed with him when he did that podcast a while back, and he said he feels like he's on par with Roman Reigns. Like this was before the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns, obviously, but it was still. And I thought to myself, yeah, he can hang with Roman. What's going on here? I don't get it. I don't know what this dude did. He's been everywhere: Impact, AEW, WWE, ECW, Lucha Underground, and he's been successful everywhere. I
I
don't
feel
know,
like they
man.
need to take him out of AEW. He falls into a similar category for a few wrestlers there that I think putting him somewhere like Ring of Honor where he's competing with less established people in AEW for those top spots. Not that he
Yeah.
shouldn't be, but where the lines that they've already set up, and in like a place where Ring of Honor, where they're looking for more people to compete for those like TV titles and world
Yeah.
title. Um, he could do great there and be a big star there, and then once you've established that, then maybe he can start getting into those top pictures somewhere else. But it's kind of like Ethan Page. He's
Yeah.
another person who got brought in, kind of shuffled around to different factions, trying different things, and both of them will 100% sell what they're given to do. And it's like it almost doesn't matter. It's like
Yeah.
you can give them whatever, and they'll run with it. But it doesn't matter how well they do with it.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed.
And it's one of those things where we talk about what wrestlers should be able to do, what they can't do. And a lot of the time we find ourselves like wanting things to be different for them. And so this actually is a perfect lead into what we're going to talk about because and I don't claim that fans know better when it comes to booking decisions, but if you objectively think about it, I feel that well, who knows? I want to be cautiously optimistic moving forward for the rest of the year because now that the landscape has changed a little bit in booking decisions and things like that across all the companies, I'm going to wait and see how some of my favorite wrestlers end up being booked. But that leads into what a big chunk of this episode is going to be about, where the three of us all have individually booked our own Forbidden Door slash Wrestle Dream slash ECW one night only, if you will.
Hmm.
And the three of us have individually built our own pay per view card of all the dream matches we want to see. And for a true Forbidden Door, all these different promotions come together. And the only thing is that it doesn't matter if we want championships to be defended, sure, but this is more just for the fans. So the three of us have
Yeah.
individually built our dream pay per view with both past and present superstars for the ultimate Forbidden Door.
Hmm.
So all three of us were given the same prompt, and this is how it follows. So each of us had to build a 5 card pay per view, and we were given the parameters, which I gave, and I followed the rules too. Is that the 5 matches that needed to be included was some sort of mid card match, so whatever that looks like. You needed a tag team match. You needed a dream match where it involved some legends, both past and present. You needed a men's main event, and you needed a women's main event. And for the mid card, it could have been men or women, and tag, same as tag team championship or not. And then we're just going to go around and we're going to go in order from the beginning of our pay per view card and then work our way down to our main events that we have. So, gentlemen, we're gonna each go bit by bit. So we're going to start with somebody. They'll give
Hmm.
us their opener match. Then we'll go to the next person for their opener. Last person goes an opener, and we'll work our way around to going down our card of how we placed everything.
Okay.
All right. So because I want to be equally fair, and I'm going to show the audience this in a little bit. So, to be fair, in order to determine the order, what I'm going to do is in my hand, currently, I have a die. So, what I have decided is that I'm going to roll this, and then whichever number it appears on is going to determine who's going to go first. So, if it rolls on a 1 or 4, Luis, my friend, you will go up.
Hmm.
2 and 5 is going to be Andrew, which means I'm left with 3 and 6. And then we'll go from there. So, dice gods be nice. Ah, and that's going to be a 4, which means that
Is that
Luis, you're going to start first.
okay? All right, you're gonna have to forgive me because I did pick a wrestler that passed away, but he hasn't been gone for a while. But this has been like a dream opening match for me. I feel like this would open any show at any company ever, and I picked the Usos versus the Briscoes.
Mm,
I having been able to have a personal relationship with Mark and Jay, I felt like that's a match that they wanted, and I know for sure the way the Usos acted or the way they represented after Jay passed, I felt like this was a it was just one of those matches where I feel like they could the storytelling between the both of them being that you got these two boys from San Francisco who grew up in this big like Samoan family, and then you have these two chicken farmers who are just hard ass workers. I feel like just from different promotions, you have it's a way to put Ring of Honor like legends from Ring of Honor against legends of WWE, and I felt like we were never going to get this match just based off the fact that the Briscoes never wanted the rigorous schedule of WWE. They never wanted to leave their family. They were family first. That's who they were. The Usos, they are family first. The only difference between them is their families in the WWE. So I felt like just the storytelling and all of this, and the Usos wouldn't need to they wouldn't need to do more than one super kick because the Briscoes don't do that stuff. So it would be a really, really good match. Yeah.
Uh,
Awesome.
that's a great opener. Andrew, you are next. So, what is your opener? And just tell us a little bit of why you picked it.
All right, so I will be upfront. I made my selections based off of dream matches of currently. I don't want to say currently active because I don't know if one of them you would consider currently active,
Mm.
but pretty recently active, if not currently active. I also didn't have a tag team matchup, so my card will be missing someone, but I've got all the other ones. So I still do have five. So my opener is because I was looking at current people, and because one of these people is currently all over the place in the news for wrestling right now. Mine opener is, and I did a few themed gimmick matches here for mine instead of just the one. But the opener is a TLC match for the NWA Women's Television title between Max the Impaler and Jade Cargill.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
I
Nice.
feel like that's two women, non-binary and women's powerhouse in those two performers, and I feel like between the experience of Max wrestling everywhere and the athleticism of Jade, they could work really well together. But also,
Absolutely.
a match like a TLC match would enable them to do some huge big spots with the two of them with some of the less experience that Jade has,
Hmm.
but that you could just make look incredible with the two of them.
Yeah, that's a great one. I like that. I love it. Giving Jade some shine there too.
Yeah.
She's dropping the rounds everywhere, and it's a women's title match. I love it.
I love it so much. Okay. So that means that my I am last for my opener. So a lot of my card is I kind of went the same route as Andrew. It's mostly going to be a lot of current people with a mixture of some newbies and some vets, so to speak. Um, I'm gonna be completely honest too. A lot of these dream matches are just personal bias for me of what I like in my wrestling. You're
Yeah.
actually going to see a lot of people. You're going to see a lot of wrestlers of color and a lot of international wrestlers too. And logically, it may or may not make sense, but I think it would be a fun time. So my opening match, which I say it's a mid card, but it can also has the potential to steal the show. So my opener is just a singles match, nothing on the line, but they are given like 15, 20 minutes for this. And my opener is Swerve Strickland versus Trey Miguel. Like those, like for me personally, I think work wise, I think Swerve and Trey kind of have a similar move set in the sense that they're pretty well rounded. They do the high spots, they do the technical. It's just good all around. And in my head, when I was coming up with this, just them keeping countering each other just with the pure
Mm.
athleticism that Swerve and Trey Miguel just makes me excited. And also because of the fact that both of them kind of have the similar personality in their characters of they're the
Hmm.
cocky heel, but they have the skill set to back it up. I
Yeah,
think for me when I was building this is more for bragging rights than anything else. And again, I just want to see what innovative stuff they can do because Swerve and Trey on their own, they always surprise me when they wrestle. I'm like, I didn't know you can do that, but now I know. So they have so much untapped in their arsenal, and I think this would be a fun match for them to start bringing stuff that people have yet to see. I'm like, give it to me now. But that is my opener, which is
nice.
Swerve versus Trey. I'm just like,
I
It's
love
a
it.
good one.
I
I'd
love
watch
it.
that one.
Hell yeah.
so. Yep. All right, Luis, let's go. So, in your Forbidden Door, after your opener match, what is next on the card for you?
All right, so next on the card for me is a gimmick match. It is a 30-minute submission match, and it is the two, in my personal opinion, I'm going to be very biased, the two absolute best in ring performers I've ever seen, Brian Danielson versus Bret Hart.
Yes. Yes.
I am just thinking about them going 30 minutes of just catch as catch can wrestling, doing a lot of snug style, the way Brett sells, the way Brian works, watching the both of them just like flow from one move to another to probably ultimately wind up being like a finish of a sharpshooter, but it doesn't matter because we're the winners of this match. That's how I look at it.
So good.
Yeah.
I,
I was going to pick Kurt and Brian, but I thought I love Brett. I have to go Brett.
so good.
Yeah.
I had a I had a thought about. I was thinking because it's so hard for me to pick who's my greatest of all time
Mm,
because it's like by what stipulations are you ranking that, and there's bias that goes in there. And one of the names that kept coming to my brain was Bret Hart. Like
yeah.
his ability to just do everything professional wrestling was so incredible. And
Yeah.
him against Danielson, prime of both of those two,
Oh,
phenomenal.
yeah. I just, oh, I'm getting excited just thinking
Yeah,
about it. I wish we could watch it. That would be amazing.
oh yeah, I'd pay for that, no matter how much that pay per view costs, just for that
Hell
one
yeah.
match.
Yep.
I'm like looking at my paper. I'm like, okay, maybe no, I'm gonna stick with my picks. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't even think of this was a struggle. This was a struggle because there's so many in my head. I was like, I can't really narrow it down to one, but sure, why not? All right, Andrew. So after your opener for the NWA Women's Championship, what is the next match that happens at your Forbidden Door card?
So funny enough, we must have been on the same wavelength because palate cleanser after the TLC match, we have a pure rules match.
Okay.
No title because neither of these hold the pure title, but Brian Danielson versus Jonathan Grisham.
Ooh, I
Yes.
love that. I hope we get that match. There's still time for us to get that match.
Yeah,
Seriously.
yeah,
Yes,
would
that would
love it.
be amazing. Yes, because I was let down with Claudio Jonathan Grisham, so I feel like this would that would be phenomenal. Yeah,
So good. And Danielson would just what he does with his opponents in the ring to
yeah,
like Gresham to work with him would just I'd love to see it. Love to see it.
absolutely. That would be so great. I agree with you. What a great pick there. Back to back Brian matches. I love
Yeah.
it.
I mean,
Let's
it
do
says
it.
something about what he's doing, right?
Yep, he's the first man to combine the pure championship with the Ring of Honor world title, so he held both of them at the same time.
I'm like looking at this. I'm like, I don't know if mine's gonna follow up on that, but you know what? It's great. So, oh my gosh, I want that so bad now. Listen, and I listen. I'm gonna be biased because I review Impact, but I also really love the talent there. I am excited that we're getting Mike Bailey versus Will Ospreay at Bound for Glory. That one's gonna be a lot of fun. Um, I hope we get Gresham versus Will at some point too, since Will is going to be there for the UK tour that Impact's
Mhm.
going on, and we know Will is going to be at Turning Point. So Gresham versus Will Ospreay would be something I wanted so bad. So after my opener of Swerve versus Trey, mine is going to be a triple threat tag team match. This is also a
Ooh,
gimmick.
nice.
Um, at this point, it could be for any of the championships, so it doesn't matter to me. But my gimmick that I chose is an Ultimate X match.
Oh.
And so the triple threat, just because I think my head, again, just how innovative and how creative and how nuts these three tag teams can go in a triple threat Ultimate X tag team match, title or not. I have FTR versus Aussie Open versus the Motor City Machine Guns in a triple threat. Because to me, and I wanted to throw the Usos in here too, but I was like,
Mm,
four tag teams is kind of a lot, so I had to figure out which one I wanted to remove. And it was really
yeah.
painful to remove the Usos, but again, FTR, Aussie Open, and Motor City Machine Guns, in my humble opinion, have perfected, in my opinion, what tag team wrestling is. Like these guys have been, these are stellar tag teams, and like when we say tag teams, tag team as tag team can get, especially when you throw around that FTR and Motor City Machine Guns have been a tag team for a long time, especially Motor City Machine Guns. You got 20 plus years with Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley. And again, the Ultimate X with the titles hanging above the ring. These, again, you have the innovativeness of the Motor City Machine Guns, who are still surprisingly very quick and agile and hard hitting with their stuff. I go back to this match recently, but when they teamed up with you know, the the Motor City Machine Guns are involved with a lot of different factions, but Time Machine is one of my favorites with Shelly and Sabin and Kushida. Like that is a trios that is so good and they just work so well together. But the quickness and agileness of the Motor City Machine Guns, then you have again Arsenal coming out from FTR, who are tag team as tag team can get. And then my wild card is Aussie Open because while they are newer in terms of a tag team, again, I go back to Royal Quest 2 between FTR and Aussie Open, with that match being very stellar and not really talked about a lot, which is surprising to me. But I just want to see tag team wrestlers be tag team wrestlers and then throw in the
Yep.
gimmick of them having to climb up as well, because all three of these teams would be down to be flying off things as well. It's a sight to behold, and I might cry if this match ever happened.
That's solid. I love it. I love the style. And I love your criteria. Long term tag teams. That's exactly what I made my criteria. The Briscoes tagging from the very beginning. And the Usos just always being
Yeah.
a tag team until recently. I mean, that's kind of what I wanted to do. I I originally, that wasn't my original tag team, but I felt like I was breaking the rules. The original tag team match I had was the Haas brothers versus the Steiner brothers. But I just thought, I was like, that's just really hard to do because we would have never been able to get that version of the two of them. But yeah, I love your criteria though, because FTR is nothing like Aussie Open and nothing like Machine Guns. They are that grounded tag team that's going to break you down, and they're going to force the other teams to not. They're not going to let them get up to that X. It's perfect. That's a great match.
And one of the other reasons I picked these three is because I feel like together they have their own strengths, but
Mm,
all three tag teams are also very innovative too. Like Aussie Open is pulling out things left and right. The Motor City Machine Guns are very quick on their feet and they think on their feet too. So when
mm,
something does, that's why I was so hella disappointed when we got the Motor City Machine Guns in AEW for like that hot minute for the pay per view that we had with
mm,
them. And they teamed up with Jay Lethal. I was like, that match was not it. I was so disappointed with that. I was
mm,
like, I'm like AEW, you have the Motor City Machine Guns, and this is what we're doing. Fine, whatever.
mm.
I guess. I
That's
mean, I'm
cool.
glad.
I
I'm
like
glad
it.
that. Yeah, I'm glad Jay Lethal took the pin because I don't think I would have forgave AEW had they pinned Shelly or Sabin. But that is my second match. Now we come back to you, Luis. So two matches have gone by. We're now in the middle of the card.
Yep.
So what is your third match of your Forbidden Door?
All right, so here is my match with the second wrestler that passed away, but this is my Legends match. All right, so this is my Legends match for the title of Mr. WrestleMania. It is a 60-minute Iron Man match between the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels and Latino Heat Eddie Guerrero.
Yes.
If you, I challenge anybody to do this. Go back and watch any Eddie WrestleMania match and tell me they're not all amazing. He had just as much claim for Mr. WrestleMania as Shawn did. I just think about the two of these guys going an hour. Oh my god! And we were supposed to get this match too.
Shawn Michaels is probably my favorite of all time. I've just liked him since I
Yeah,
was a kid and he was on the Rockers. And so he's always been my favorite. I have other favorites too. But Eddie Guerrero is probably up there, in my opinion, with Bret Hart as
yeah,
one of the greatest of all time. And every time I see his matches, I get so sad that we
yeah,
didn't, like, obviously as a person, it's so sad that,
yeah.
we lost him, his family lost him, all that stuff. But for the business, he like what could have been if Eddie could have wrestled his whole career. Like, oh,
Absolutely. That honestly, and I'm not gonna lie, that's why I love Dom so much. Cause what he's emulating everything. And if you go back and just do me a favor, next time you're gonna watch a Dom match, just pull up your phone, pull up a YouTube of Eddie Guerrero's Frog Splash, and then watch Dom's. And you're like, dude, he perfected Eddie's style. It looks identical. It's like a mirror image. That's why I love him so much. Eddie's one of my all-time favorites. Yeah, and Shawn Michaels obviously being the universal goat. I mean, I don't even know how to say it. Like, whether you want to admit it or not, he's the Michael Jordan of wrestling. It's that simple. I mean, love it.
awesome, awesome
Oh
match.
my,
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh my goodness. I'm like, do I want to change anything? No, I'm good. I think.
No, it's
Oh
funny.
my,
Eddie Guerrero was actually someone I thought about, but then I was like, oh no, this is for like right now, kind of a thing. And so
that's
I didn't even go for it. But yeah, he was one of the first people that popped in my
that's
head.
why I picked when he said Legends match. I was like, well, all right, I'm going Legends. Then these are Legends to me. Like,
Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. As much as any of the other people that people would consider legends,
yeah, no
definitely legends.
question.
oh my goodness. Well, so Andrew, we come to you. So now two matches have happened at your Forbidden Door. So now we're in the middle of your card. So what is the third match that goes on for you?
Funnily enough, it's also my legends match, and I think this is actually I like that we're kind of working through space and time here,
Yeah.
because I think when I originally pictured this match, I pictured it to be them now, and
Oh
I
yeah.
set it up with this stipulation because it's something that I think given their current age, you could work around. Not saying I would want to see this at their current age because one of them might get hurt. But uh, if you also did it in their prime, like, would be an awesome match to see. And that's a Hell in the Cell match with
Oh.
The Undertaker versus Sting.
Ooh, that's
Oh
my
my
all-time
gosh.
favorite
Yes.
wrestler. That's my guy.
Yeah.
That
I think
is
you go now Undertaker and Sting, it's not going to be a super long match. They're going to use the gimmick of the Hell in the Cell match. They're going to play into the theatrics of them, but you put them at like height of Crow Sting and height
yes.
of Undertaker. Oh,
Yes.
that is a cinematic, beautiful match to watch from the entrances to the finish. I would be so happy. And we never,
Yes.
like, yeah,
I've always thought to myself Sting would go over in the most Mark term ever because I'm thinking like Taker will pick him up for a tombstone and Sting will reverse it into the Scorpion Death Drop. And
yeah.
that's always I always saw that match going. I love that. That's awesome. Great Legends match.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I would. Oh God, it'd
Oh.
be so amazing to watch.
Yep.
Okay, so funnily enough, my third match also happens to be my Legends match.
I love it. I love it.
um, this one is going to be kind of controversial because there's one legend in here that the wrestling community doesn't necessarily talk about anymore. And I
Mhm.
want to preface by saying before I say this match and give my reasoning. what this individual did was not okay, and they do not get a free pass with any of this. However, with this criteria, and this is in an alternate timeline, in an alternate universe, I'm pulling a Marvel what if here scenario happened. My
Mm,
Legends match is a triple threat that I call the Three Amigos match, and this is Eddie Guerrero versus Chris Benoit versus Rey Mysterio. Like, to
mm.
me, that is the definition of like the bestest of friends in the business. And in this what if scenario, they would just, if a time machine, voodoo magic, whatever you want to call it, um, I think in an alternate universe, I feel that this triple threat, we potentially could have gotten it, and just from the styles of all three of them, but also kind of playing for me, playing off of the fact that all three of them were really, really close as well, like both in the ring and out of the ring too. This has the potential to be the what I call the cry fest of my pay-per-view. So everybody's gonna be
Yeah.
crying afterwards because of how like the storytell this is gonna be my storytelling match of the pay-per-view. And the way I
Hmm.
pictured it is like, this is not for a title. This is not for bragging rights. This is just three men who love this business, who are best friends, and they're given this opportunity. So let's put on a show. And that's exactly what, in my head, that's what exactly they do. And then towards the end, the three of them hug it out. The crowd is on their feet, like clapping along. People are crying. I'm crying watching it from my television. Like, this is my this is one of two emotional matches for me, because for me, this is the match that I would have loved to seen had things been different, had Eddie been able to go through his whole career, and also if Chris Benoit in an alternate reality didn't suffer so many injuries to the head, and also
Hmm.
the things that he did towards the tail end of his personal life.
Yeah.
But again, I no in no way, shape, or form do I excuse what Chris Benoit did, but in an alternate timeline where he didn't have the concussions and where none of this happened, and all three of them were still around at the height of their careers, this is my legend slash my dream match. Plus, I would start crying. But that is the match that's in the middle of my card, which means that my last two kind of have to follow it up, which was really tough to build this card. I'm like, I want to be fair, but this is going to be
Hmm.
crying. But I do think that my last two matches, I think, would, at least to me, would live up to the hype. But that is my third match: my Eddie Guerrero versus Chris Benoit versus Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, I can't complain about that match. I mean, never been the biggest Ray fan. I'm more of an Ultimo Dragon guy. That's always been my guy. But Ray, Eddie, and Benoit have always put on phenomenal matches. I mean, their worst match they ever had was the one night stand match, and Eddie took complete ownership of that. He talks about it in his book. He talks about it in his DVD. He wasn't there. He apologized after it. But the matches they had from ECW to WCW to WWE, every single match that they ever had was just phenomenal. And yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that idea of having the three of them, because you have Benoit, who's absolutely technical, probably the best technical wrestler we've ever seen. You have Rey Mysterio, the greatest high flyer you've ever seen, and then you have Eddie, who could do both of their styles. It's a perfect marriage. That's a really good triple threat match.
Yeah, I was one of my favorite things of the end of WCW and all that stuff was Eddie, Benoit, and Malenko coming over to
Yeah.
WWE. That trio just right there was like, I was like that. Those three together just feel like they are gonna, just take out every competition that
Mm,
they get faced with in the ring.
yeah.
And when they wrestled each other, they were insane matches. And yeah,
Absolutely.
Rey Mysterio has had the most insane career. And I think that's also an example of like where Eddie could have gone to, um, had he, lived through, to reach that, the same point.
Yeah.
So just what Rey Mysterio has been able to do, Eddie Guerrero would have been right up there, continuing on with him. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm just getting to see them wrestle one more time would be pretty insane.
Hell yeah. Love it. All right, is it my turn?
Yep,
Your
so your
co-main event.
semi-main yeah, your semi-main event, if you will.
All right, so I teased this match by saying that it'll be the hottest on the mic to lead into the match. I told Mikey that. I'm thinking about era versus era and someone who can still go. I believe she can still go. So this is my women's title match. All right. And I have the man Becky Lynch versus the greatest female talker we've ever seen in AJ Lee. I'm thinking about the two of these women going at it just bar for bar and then just going in there and tearing it down because there's a lot of people, there's this misconception that April wasn't a good professional wrestler. And I'm just like, that's not true because she just didn't have the talent to work around her. They were still working diva style, but she wanted to work Sasha's and Bailey's when she won Diva of the Year. She talks about that. That's what she wanted. So when I look at AJ on the mic and I look at Becky on the mic, I'm just like, who's better? Who can talk better than these two women? Maybe Mickey James because she's that good on the mic too. But I'm thinking this. I would love to see this match, and no question, I can feel. I feel like AJ can reverse the disarm her and turn it into the Black Widow somehow. I don't know. I just like I could see I could picture this match in my mind. Yeah.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. The promo work for that in my head is so fantastic.
Yup.
And I've always liked AJ, and I agree with what you said because at the time when she was the Divas champion, outside of maybe Tamina and Natalia, most of them were still the Divas era. So it's
Mm-hmm.
just like it was really, really tough for her because AJ was to me, and I love the Four Horsewomen, but AJ was like the turning point for me in WWE where it went from divas to women's wrestling, and
One
for me
hundred
that was the
percent.
origin point. So like I'm thinking about her and Caitlyn
That was
and
what I was
like
gonna say. Go back and watch that match if you think she can't wrestle. That's the
It was
AJ.
perfect
like
match.
the next step after the like getting like Lita and
Yeah.
those people during the early, earlier kind of diva days, like, when they had some women's wrestlers mixed in with models that were brought in to be wrestlers.
Yeah.
Um, and then you had the next group that stood up. So there was a little bit more, and they had a little
Yeah.
more skills. And now we're today where it's like, we're having
Yeah.
women's main events and tag
Right.
matches and,
And for
and
me,
yeah,
yeah. And for
I
me
was just thinking.
personally,
Oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
for me personally, it's like AJ and Caitlyn, like and you know what? I throw Tamina and Natalia in that era too. Those four kind of open and like were the turning point where the fans started to be like, you know what? We're kind of tired of bra and panties matches. Like
Yeah.
we want to see these women actually wrestle and fight. And then, that kind of changed because it was those four. And then when Paige was in WWE too, that was a
Oh.
thing. And then, from there we get NXT with, the likes of Charlotte and Bailey and Sasha and
Mm-hmm.
then, though and Becky. And then for me personally, after those four kind of did their thing, then we got the likes of like Raquel, Rhea, Io, Asuka, Ember, when Triple H was booking her. Um, and you just had so much women's talent in the black and gold era, and even the ones that didn't really have a championship run, but like lest we forget, Bianca never won a championship in NXT, but
which is crazy.
right, and I have to remind myself, I'm like Bianca is out here winning titles on the main roster, and yet but in NXT, like the charisma that girl has is just oozes. And what I loved about that third generation of women, like with Rhea and Bianca, Io, and Asuka, Ember, all of them were unapologetically different and themselves. Like again, Rhea Ripley with the brute. Like I still think fondly of Raquel and Rhea's like anything goes fall count anywhere match. Like when Raquel threw Dakota and locked her in the locker.
Yes. That is a phenomenal match.
Like that is the money shot. and then Io Sky jumping on top of Rhea from the skull of the takeover that this match occurred at, where I thought Io broke her ribs. It,
It
it,
was like they allowed women's wrestling to have the character diversity and skill set diversity that they had for the men's wrestling for decades.
Yep, hundred
and
percent.
now, and now for me as a you know fan of wrestling, I'm to the point where we have so many good women's wrestlers. I was like, I kind of like their matches better than the men's 9 out of 10 times, but I wish like I want them to get more time. That's been my biggest complaint. Is that when the women are given time, they prove that their matches are probably some of the best ones on any given pay per view card, and I will forever support that because again, my match of the year is still so far. I mean, we have the rest to go, but Athena versus Willow is like between men's and women's. That's my match of the year, just because they were given time. These two women went at it, and they constantly keep surprising me because they've been doing this and they've been training and they want to be innovative. Where I feel as with men's wrestlers, it's easier for them to get away with it because again, I try not to be sexist here, but because they're men, it's easier. like because wrestling is majority of men's sport. But the women, I think, since that AJ Lee area, Caitlyn, and all of them, and all the women that have come after that, like I'm still mad we don't have another Evolution pay per view. Like, lest we forget, Charlotte versus Becky at that Evolution pay per view was fucking fantastic. And also, I miss the Mae Young Classic because then you get to showcase women's wrestlers from around the world too.
If
And
not
that
for the
intro
Mae Young Classic, we wouldn't have Rhea Ripley.
No, and like we got to see so many women's wrestlers from around the world that like we had no idea existed, but were cool. Like I was introduced to Kyrie through that, and Io and Mia Yim too. Like, oh my goodness, I was like,
Tony
it's crazy.
Storm.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That Tony Storm Piper Nevin match, I think about that match all the time.
I like, and even throwing in NXT UK too. Like, they had a stack women's roster in the UK as well. Like,
Mhm.
and it's unfortunate that Jenny had to retire, but Jenny and like Piper Niven, Blair, like, oh my gosh, so
See,
so
that's
so.
I feel like that's an area that if WWE never really goes back to that, that's another area that AEW could. I mean, the fact that they have their talent, they have Ring of Honor talent, and they always have these open doors with New Japan, CMLL, AAA, all throughout Europe, all the indies. Like
Mhm.
they could easily put together a women's pay per view and just
But they're
highlight all those
losing
things.
people. If you listen to Thunder Rosa's comments today, it sounded like Thunder thought everything WWE's doing with Jade Cargill is phenomenal, and nobody's doing that for women's wrestling. So she's now thinking of like going over there. And I could imagine. Did you see the match with Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker, the last match?
Yeah,
Did you see the entrance that Thunder Rosa got? Like the
Oh
the,
my
the
god,
enter with the mariachi band and all that, and the Dia de los
God,
Muertos
that.
stuff. Can you imagine that at WrestleMania?
Oh
Like,
my gosh.
I can, and think about it. Dia de los Muertos is in 14 days. Can you imagine them showcasing something like that with her, having her come out at Halloween Havoc? Like, she's right. AEW's not doing this stuff with the women over there.
but that's
That
what
would
I'm
be
saying.
wonderful.
Like that would be so smart of them to scoop it up. I mean, other than the fact that it would help with the complaints that they're already having about it, but it's not like there's a majority of people are succeeding in that department and
Yeah.
AEW's fallen behind. I mean, at this point, I think like Ring of Honor is probably some of the best women's booking that's going on right now. The last card that they had, I think there were 4 women's matches in that one night on a
And
Yeah.
they
regular
were
weekly
all
show.
stellar.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
mean,
Yep. Becky just made my list because she's one of my all time favorites. But I almost made this a battle of Miss Puerto Rico and had AJ versus Zelina Vega.
heck yes.
So, but yeah. All right, what's next? Who's next?
So,
Uh,
so funnily enough, speaking of women's wrestling, my main event is also a women's match, but this is a women's title match for the Ring of Honor women's
Ooh,
title. Uh, I tried to think of people who had not faced each other yet, but got me thinking about people who are a bit similar, and I don't think they've faced each other yet. Even if they have, I'd like to see it again. Is Athena defending her title against Hikaru Shida?
nice.
yes.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, I
No
would love to
question.
see that. And there's a part of me that really got excited about it because I was like, this is a match that could actually happen
Yeah,
because they're basically working for the same company.
no question.
Um, so heck, next Ring of Honor pay per view or someone coming up, have Athena defend it against Sheeta because even if Sheeta loses, that's such a good win to keep building up Athena where she's already heading to. So
No question. And it's clear that she does like she's the main woman on the AEW roster. So, I mean, 3 title reigns, it's clear that that's their top. That's their top
yeah,
star. So,
yeah.
I could see this. Them pulling like a Survivor Series, just kind of having like champ versus champ.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That would be perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh my
Plus, the
goodness.
in-ring work would be amazing.
Oh, no doubt, man. Like
It'd be so rough, but so like good. Oh
Yeah.
god, it'd just
it
be
would be so
brutal.
rough in like a good way.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
Yeah.
because Athena has been known to like if her opponent's ready for it, she can listen. What we saw on last Ring of Honor, like she so to give context, Luis, um, Athena had a proving ground match. So essentially if you could survive 10 minutes with the champion, you can get a championship opportunity. Athena literally whooped, I don't want to say jobber, but essentially it was literally a squash match. Like Athena
Hmm.
was throwing homegirl around, and oh my god, when she threw her into not just the barricade, but the corner of the barricade where two sections intersect and like bam, face first into that corner. I'm like,
Well, she threw her like a body slam
oh
throw,
my
like not
Yeah.
even like I'm gonna push you and you run into it. It's that power
Athena's
bomb.
vicious, man. Oh my gosh. But that's what I'm saying. Like Athena versus Sheeta, like Sheeta is known to take those heavy hits very, very well and also
Hmm.
give them back in return.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a great match. Okay. So I'm breaking the trend here because both of the semi-main events are the women's matches. My women's match is actually going to be my main event.
Okay.
But for me, my semi-main event is again, it's really really tough because I was like, do I want to go singles? But this one turned into a fatal four-way. Just this one is going to make no logical sense, but to me, these are my four favorite technical wrestlers, but also can pull tricks out of their bag if need be. This is kind of cheating because two of these people just had a match at Wrestle Dream together, but I wanted to throw those two in with some of my two other favorites. And again, on paper, this may not make sense, but my semi main event is just an exhibition match. It's a fatal four way, and it's Brian Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. versus Katsuyori Shibata versus Josh Alexander.
Wow. That would be, they would kick the shit out of each other.
That's what I'm saying. I want
Yeah.
pure technicality and I want
Hmm.
violence because all four men, for me, fit that category. Obviously, Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr., it's like no questions. To me, those are like the two top technical wrestlers in the world right now. But then with Josh and with Shibata, those two are, in my opinion, are also some of the top technical wrestlers, but they're like to me, they're like the understudies. It's
Hmm.
because everyone talks about Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr. all the time, which deservedly so. They're amazing. But I feel that Josh and Shibata are like the dark horse in this because they are just as technically sound. It's just they don't have the eyes on them like Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr. have. And listen, I picked Shibata because I want him to kick the shit out of everybody. Because again,
He's amazing.
Shibata, exactly. And I also picked Josh Alexander for the sake of I want him to that crossbody he did at Victory Road against Steve Macklin underneath the like bottom rope,
Hmm.
and just for a big man, he is agile and he is powerful, and also he is also somewhat of a technical specialist too. I also love the fact that he is channeling Kurt Angle by wearing like your traditional
Hmm.
wrestling
Hmm.
gear in it. This would be the just men slapping each other, kicking the shit out of each other match for me. This is my propensity for violence match, as I like to call it.
I love it.
And,
It's a
and
solid
honestly,
match.
to me, I don't care who wins because the real winner is me, the fan, because I got to see
Yeah,
these four knock the crap out of each other.
I love it. I think that's a great match. I would definitely pay to see that. 100%. Well, just honestly, I would pay to see Josh versus Brian just one on one.
Um,
Mhm.
listen, Josh Alexander to me is like a unicorn in wrestling because Impact and New Japan always work together for a lot of these, and they always send Josh over to like the New Japan stuff. Like, and it's not talked about a lot, but Josh and the Motor City Machine Guns had a match for the 6-man tags over in New Japan against Tanahashi and the rest of them, and I was like, that match was
Mm,
pretty good. Like,
Mhm.
God,
nice.
it's yeah. This is my semi-main event. I just wanted to do my propensity for violence match. I want these four to kick the shit out of each other, and I win.
I love it. I love it. All right. So my main event match.
All right, what do you got for us?
So, being that I'm 39 and I grew up in an era where WCW used to go to Japan a lot, I decided to go with an American wrestler versus a Japanese wrestler, but I pick specific wrestlers. So, I challenge anybody to find a better New Japan versus WCW match than Sting versus Great Muta, right? So I was like, well, I think Sting could still go. So he's in my main event. So it's Sting versus Okada for the. I thought to myself, I watched Sting at Night of Champions with Seth Rollins, and before that injury, they were tearing the house down. Sting versus Triple H at Mania was amazing until the weird finish. I was like, Sting in AEW, if you don't think he can go watch Darby Allin's injury at All In. When Sting and Swerve had to ad lib in the match, he can still go. And I was thinking, like, come on, man. Okada's on his way out. I need this match. I need Sting to go back to this WCW versus the world mentality. And I want to see this. And I feel like with having like the great Muda as the enforcer or something, this would just be phenomenal. So that's my main event. The Stinger versus Okada. I want to see it.
Nice.
Uh,
Uh,
listen, Okada and oh my goodness. And I mean, we technically might still get if they really wanted to do it, we still could get some
Wow.
sort of iteration of this, but
I think Sting's retiring on Wednesday. So,
that would be crazy.
yep.
I
I was
mean,
like,
We'll
what
see.
he's done, what he's been able to do, especially what he's done for and with Darby Allen
Yeah.
has been like that wrestling career aside and everything. The fact that he's put that energy behind a young wrestler like that and had like no self interest. I mean, sure, he's getting
Yeah.
to still do what he loves, but he's out there being the kind of legend that you want to see, really just out there to do what he can to help that next generation. He's just classic.
Yeah. No question. He's just
and
phenomenal.
oh, for sure. And Sting is out here. Sting's a perfect example to me if you're towards the tail end of your career, but still want to do some stuff like the way that Sting has been in AEW to me has been perfect in how you use him sparingly.
Hmm.
He's mentoring Darby, and also me and my friend who watch the pay per views always get a kick out of, except for the last time when Sting got injured from flying off of a ladder onto that table. Um, Sting flopping through tables is probably the best thing that has happened within the last year or two because, and they're always so protective too. Like Andrade caught him through the table. Like Sting is always caught. And at the first Forbidden Door, when he jumped onto Bullet Club, with Hikuleo and all of them at the first Forbidden Door from the entrance ramp was a feat that is a sight that I will never forget. But to me, that's how you want to keep your legends intact. You use them sparingly. And I will give AEW credit because they show that with Sting, you don't need to put a title on him to make him relevant. Impact Wrestling, I need you to take notes. I'm
And
not
before
Also,
bitter.
Jay White got into it, Eddie was the top world champion on AEW or Ring of Honor.
Mhm.
So now we have a real world champion in Jay White, though.
Listen, say what you will about MJF. Selfishly, I'm excited for this match because of the fact I will be at Full Gear live. So I'm excited. Less so for MJF, but more so that I get to see Jay White on American soil actually in person wrestle. Like that has always been on my bucket list.
Oh, you're going.
Uh,
That's
me and my
awesome.
me and my friend are going to Full Gear. As soon as I found out it's going to be at the Kia Forum, I'm like, that's literally 2 hours away in Los Angeles. We're going. I don't care. Like I
Oh,
am going.
that's cool. That's amazing. You get to see the Guns their entrance live.
Oh my goodness, and that's the only match we have for Full Gear. And personally, that is enough for me to be like, listen, I I do hope there are some matches I would like to see based on what's happening so far, but for
You
me
probably get Brian
personally,
versus Christian.
ooh, ooh, I'm excited for that. I don't know who they will wrestle, but like my checklist is I want to see Swerve have a match. I don't know if they'll do him and Hangman
Hangman.
again.
Yeah. They're gonna have their
Oh my
second
god,
match.
yes. Like there's just there's just so much that there can possibly be. I'm excited to see what happens. All right, Andrew, we come to our your main event. So, what is your main event for your Forbidden Door?
again, it's funny that you talk about this performer because my main event, and I put it at the main event because similar to your choice for the co-main event with people who have great mic skills,
Yeah.
and both would bring it leading into it, and then I think in the ring they would be uh, awesome to see together too. Um, is and what they're where they're at, especially right now in their careers and character development, is an AEW World Title match between MJF and Seth Rollins.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god. Just that that would be amazing.
I I was just thinking of like, especially when we had to put it into the card format, and I was trying to think of like what would be main events to pick. And I think these two, especially in this style of Forbidden Door, show would close out the show in such an incredible way. And the lead up to it, the way that they would jaw at each other would be it would be so entertaining.
My god. I'm just thinking about well, yeah, I love how you made the premise about promos because I was thinking about Adam Copeland being unrestricted, not having to follow a script, being able to interrupt the way he just crushed Ricky Starks last night, right? And I'm thinking like, would Seth do the same to MJF? Like, or would MJF just absolutely lose his mind on the microphone? Like, what would we see? Because go back and watch Ring of Honor, Tyler Black. Like, that dude could talk. Like, he was amazing. So, yeah, that would be great. That would be great. Yeah.
Their abilities to both like just commit 100% to
Hmm.
what they're doing. It's like Seth Rollins. He's never been my favorite.
Mm.
Uh, like he's at the top, but when you look at all the other people at the top, there's always been someone I've been like, oh, I'd lean more towards that guy. But he's the kind of like wrestler that's like the celebrity that it's like no matter what they wear becomes fashion. No matter what
Yeah.
they do becomes, the new hot topic. And Seth Rollins is that way. You could throw him in a costume shop. He'll pick out five random items, and then it's the hottest thing now. And it's just what he does is it's so interesting. And the two of them going off on each other would be. I don't even know. It would take so long to get to the actual match
Yeah.
with the
It
two
would
of
be
them.
it would be amazing. That would be great. I love it.
I want to see it so bad. I really, really do. Alrighty. So I'm gonna take everybody on a journey for this one. So as I said before, my main event for my Forbidden Door is a women's match.
Yeah.
So I had a really tough time figuring because to me with these, because this is going to be a fatal four way with this one. And I thought to myself, what title would this be for? And as I was listing the pros and cons for both, I was just like, I kind of feel that it would be a bit of an injustice to me to have them fight for one of the company women's championships. So then this is where I went into full on writing mode and fantasy book this. So in my Forbidden Door, across all of the promotions, the women competed in what I have called the Minerva Cup. So
Ooh, okay.
The Minerva Cup is the Greek goddess of art and beauty, but also she is the Roman equivalent to Athena. So tactical warfare, beauty, grace, intelligence, but also very powerful, and she will ruin you in any kind of warfare. So in my head, WWE, AEW, New Japan, and Impact, as well as Ring of Honor, which is the sit for AEW as well. There is a tournament across all the women's divisions, and the winners of the finals for each of their respected tournaments will be representing their brand in the Fatal Four Way finals of this match. Now, again, this is a little biased because I love women's wrestling, but I also want to make sure that my wrestlers of color get the spotlight in this one. So, in the finals for the Minerva Cup, for just to see who is the inaugural champion of this, because it's like an actual trophy, representing WWE and winning that tournament is Bianca Belair versus the winner of the Impact Minerva Cup, Trinity, versus the Ring of Honor slash AEW winner Athena versus the New Japan winner Mercedes Monet. Like that again on paper. This shouldn't make sense, but to me, I also have coined this main event as my Black Girl Magic because all of them happen to be African American as well. And all four of them, I think, in this ring, I also wanted to play off of their real life friendship too, because all four of them are really close as well in real life. And again, it would just be like technical wise, I don't know how it would pan out, but for me, this is a fatal four way that I would love to see just these women go at it. And of course, honestly, this is my second cry fest of the night because for me personally, all four of these women have a special place in my heart for a variety of reasons, especially Bianca and Mercedes because their match at WrestleMania when they main evented night one in Tampa, as I have said multiple occasions on this podcast, and I've told the story over and over again, that match has a special place in my heart because that was the last match that I saw with my grandmother before she passed away. And like during the pandemic, she became my wrestling buddy out of a sudden when she lived with us. So she would come over and watch all the WWE and NXT pay per views with me. And so Bianca and Mercedes have that special place. And then, of course, Athena and Trinity, now that they have kind of gone off on their own and no longer part of WWE and have thrived in Ring of Honor and in Impact, and just how much freedom that they are able to do. And, all four of these women together, I think would be really, really fun. But yeah, so my main event is this Minerva Cup idea with those four women just going at it, different styles, just a lot of fun moments to be had. And then, of course, we go off the air with all four of these women like hugging it out and just everything.
I love
That's
it.
my main event.
They get their click hug in.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Mercedes is winning, by the way.
Honestly, I it's either between her and Athena, but yeah, I picked Mercedes to win if we're going to pick winners for this. So
100%.
Mercedes wins, and then since WWE doesn't like to play with other people outside of things like this, Bianca would go back there, and then Mercedes would just terrorize Athena and Trinity a bit in their promotions.
Oh yeah. That I could totally see that because yeah, that would be a stellar match too. I could see like the crowd popping for like when we finally get that face to face between Mercedes and Bianca because they're gonna think back to WrestleMania, and then when you finally get like that, Bianca and Athena. Like I could see that the crowd going absolutely apeshit when the Mercedes and Trinity are face to face.
Yeah.
Like this just gonna be one of those things where it's gonna be like the old school Royal Rumble when the two people turn around and it's like, oh, these guys got history. Like, yeah, that would be a phenomenal match.
Oh, so and that's the finals, and, like, I went a step further, and I also booked, like, the finals for the respected brands, like, who these girls would be facing off in for that
Uh-huh.
spot in this Forbidden Door. And again, this is in my head and just because I wanna see these dream matches happen. On WWE, the finals would be Bianca versus Becky Lynch. Um,
Mm.
for Impact, it would be Trinity versus Diana.
Mhm.
For Ring of Honor slash AEW, Athena versus Thunder Rosa. For me personally, I think would be either Thunder or I would put Hikaru Shida in that position. Like either or would work. And then for New Japan, I mean, it's no contest for me. Mercedes versus Julia would be the finals. Like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness. And again, like those matches would be baller. And then you have
Hell
these
yeah.
four women fight, and it's just like,
I think
but
that'd be
yeah, so
great.
that is my main event for all this.
That's
Nice.
so funny. I had like I was like, what if these guys tell me at the last minute they wanted like a 0 hour match? Like,
Well,
oh, an opening. And I had one written down here, but it's funny. So I was thinking of like starting it off with a promo battle. My 0 hour match, I actually had Maxwell Jacob Friedman versus Kevin Owens.
oh
I
my
thought
Oh,
the
gosh, yeah.
yeah.
two, I was thinking, I was like, the way KO comes at people, holy shit. I was just like, they would just. I feel like he would just shred him. Like I feel like the both of them would just be going at each other, and then they would just wind up like having that. Remember when that Royal Rumble when Marty Jannetty got in the ring and him and Shawn Michaels just started like just nailing each other, right? I was like, that's what I could see happening here is these two just like punching the shit out of each other would just be amazing.
Oh my goodness. You know, I also because I should you know what I should have thought about it because I also did have kind of like a pre-show match, and
Yeah.
you know, it's weird because AEW does the 0 hour,
Mhm.
and then every company except for well, New Japan does it sometimes, but currently WWE is the only one that doesn't do pre-show matches unless you're NXT. And hot take, sometimes those pre-show matches should have been swapped out for one of the matches on the card. Looking at you, Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin. I would have rather had seen Kaylani Jordan and Blair Davenport opening up No Mercy, but that's just me.
Yeah. I
Oh
love
my
it.
goodness.
This is a great show.
And here's the thing. So like I said at the beginning, I don't cl- I don't claim that any of us know better than the bookers, but
Mhm.
in a perfect world for all of us, all these companies can get along and they can just work with each other. And of
Yeah.
course, currently we kind of have that because AEW, New Japan, and Impact are working together somewhat. And then when you throw in CMLL and AAA and like Noah and all that, like all these companies are working together. And then WWE is like off on its own little island. I'm like, listen, I know the way WWE style of wrestling is different than everybody else's, but come on, man. Like it was really awesome for like at the beginning of the year. For me, it was awesome to see WWE let Shinsuke go wrestle Muda in Japan
That
for
was
his
awesome.
retirement match.
Yeah.
I was like, that match was baller.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was
I mean,
100% good.
it's all about IP. It's WWE. It's the way they change people's names, the way they do certain things. Is they, it's kind of the Disney of professional wrestling. They want to have control over it. They want to be able to make sure that they're making something off of everything that's connected to them, and sharing that with other people just doesn't fit the business model, which is unfortunate. Because yeah, what getting to see those crossovers is amazing for us as like the fans, but it's awesome for the wrestlers too, especially the ones that's how they're able to survive and thrive in doing this, because not everybody can be a main star and a full-time contract on something like AEW even, and being able to make those appearances in other places is great for them. So
Yeah.
I love it so much. So then I guess kind of as like a last thing, um, that's kind of in the same area of us creating our own Forbidden Door card. Um, and this is gonna require some thinking, so I'm putting the host and myself on the spot here. So it could be from this year, it can be from all time, but have there been matches for you personally that were the main event of a pay-per-view, a TV show that you thought was going to be awesome and then it turned out it didn't live up to the expectation of like your on paper this is should be a good match. This is a dream match for me. Like this is going to be awesome and then it kind of went flop.
The main event of night one of WrestleMania.
Oh, my, oh, ooh, oh,
Mhm.
ooh. Okay. So, for those of you that, don't remember or don't watch WWE, so this year's WrestleMania, right? Night 1.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, okay. So, we've talked about this off camera a little bit, but the main event for night 1 of WrestleMania this year was for the undisputed tag team championships between Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Usos. And for those of you that don't remember from our WrestleMania episode, me and Evan, one of our other co-hosts, both of us, along with my friend, the three of us were there live for WrestleMania. So we were there in person because it was at the SoFi Stadium. I love how they touted it as Los Angeles. I'm like, boy, we're in Inglewood. Calm down. Like we're in Inglewood, California. Let's be all the way 100. But honestly, it was a fun match, but after it was done and over with, I'm like, I feel like we could have swapped that with the match that came before it, which was Charlotte versus Rhea. I'm like, that women's match should have main evented night 1, like, honestly.
Yep. Yep. Quite possibly one of the biggest mistakes I've ever seen. I remember watching Rhea Ripley win the Royal Rumble and listening to Michael Cole, and you can go back and watch it on Peacock. And he said, actually, it was Corey Graves. He said, Rhea Ripley just booked herself the main event of WrestleMania. And I thought to myself, this is so special. She went in number one. She lasted over an hour. She just won the Royal Rumble and she went out there and she picked Charlotte. I was like, this is no question gonna be the main event. And I was like, they're over pushing this bloodline versus Kevin and Sammy. And I was like, they're gonna do it, aren't they? And then the week before they announced it as the main event. And I posted a TikTok and I said, in 6 months to a year, when we think about this WrestleMania, everyone will remember Charlotte versus Rhea, and nobody will remember any move done in Kevin and Sammy versus Usos, except for the fact that the Usos broke a record of using super kicks in the match. That's the only thing. I was like, that just everybody kept saying the story of Kevin and Sammy versus the Usos needed to do it. But when I watch the match, I'm a big proponent of watching matches on mute. I believe it tells a lot about a professional wrestler if you can get people to, you know, completely sink into your match without needing crowd reaction, right? Like I've watched Brett versus Owen opening match at WrestleMania 10 on mute like thousands of times. I've seen that match like a lot, and I don't need the crowd. I can watch it and see Brett and Owen go like move for move and be like, this is one of the best wrestling matches I've ever seen. That's how I felt about Charlotte versus Rhea, but that main event was trash. I was not a fan. Then finding out later on in the dirt sheets and stuff and hearing Jim Cornette talk about it on his podcast that the Usos were purposely trolling him because of the fact that he talks about the super kicks and they wanted to overutilize the super kick. I was like, you picked the main event of WrestleMania to troll Jim Cornette? Like, what the hell? Like, it's just really harsh for me.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest, like, I felt the same way, and we agreed with that. I think looking in hindsight now back at it, like, we understood why WWE did it the way they did, but I think that one was questionable. And then night two's main event is what made us furious. And like literally the first hour, so it's like 2 hours between Los Angeles and where we live. So literally, as soon as night two ended, we got in the car, we started the journey home. And literally for the first half of the trip, for the first hour, we just sat there in silence. And the only thing that we were able to utter was why, because we were that is how upset we got at Roman versus Cody. I was just like, oh,
Yeah.
I was like, ooh. Yeah. Night two is also very questionable overall as an experience. That one was up and down. Like nobody asked for Lesnar versus Omos. That women's tag team could have been better, but Shayna got hurt in the middle of that match. What else happened? The only thing that was great about that one was Drew, Sheamus, and Gunther. Like that match literally slapped. It was great. The Hell in the Cell match could have been better had Edge not accidentally busted Finn Balor open with the ladder, and they stopped the match for like 5 whole minutes.
They didn't even stop. Like they just stopped wrestling, and everything kept going while they stapled his head together. It was ridiculous.
I enjoyed that match. I don't
Oh, it
know.
was so good, and I
Yeah.
give Finn
It
Balor
was
so many
good,
props, dude.
but let me
Yeah.
tell you, like being there live and we sat there for 5 minutes as the medical team were checking on Finn. I was like, oh, ooh, that's bad. And of course, when you're watching it via Peacock, you have the commentary team at least talking about it. The whole arena was just on pins and needles, wondering, "Oh my gosh, I think Finn is hurt. Like, what's about to happen?"
Hmm.
We also found it funny that they color coded everything, which we thought was kind of funny. I was
Yeah.
like purple for Finn and red for Edge. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think. Yeah, and then night two, I love Bianca, but Asuka should have won that night. Like I was like, everything
She got
pointed to.
she won later on. She beat her later on.
I mean, that's fair, but like in hindsight, eventually Asuka got her win. But everything was building to Asuka winning the title at WrestleMania, and I'm just like, Asuka has not won a single match at WrestleMania since becoming on the main roster. Like she,
And Bianca
she,
hasn't lost one. She's
I
got an
know.
undefeated streak.
I'm just like, ugh. It hurt. And then as soon as I saw the entrance that Bianca did, I'm like, oh, there's no way. At this point, I'm like, oh, there's no way she's losing this title. You can't have her come out with little girls dancing to her theme song. Like,
Yeah.
but I do want to say I love Bianca Belair because she's unapologetically black with a lot of her entrances. Like, she is all about her culture and she's not afraid to show it. Like, even in
100%.
NXT, I love it so much. Okay, so for me, right? Um, I think I was more upset because the ending kind of soured it for me. And going into
Oh.
the match, like going into a match, I was like, oh, there's no way this is going to be like a squash match. And then the match actually happened and it was a good 22-minute match. And I was like, oh my God, I'm actually rooting for this other tag team to be the champions. And then they lost. And I was like, so the match I'm talking about comes from All Out
Oh.
2022. And this was the AEW Tag Team Championship match between Swerve and Our Glory, who were champions at the time. So Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland versus the Acclaimed. And going into this match, the way that it had been built up, I was like, oh, Keith Lee and Swerve are going to squash Max Caster and Anthony Bowens. And I was upset because the match was really good. And they made me believe that the Acclaim had a shot at winning. I'm like, oh my God, let the Acclaim win. Like, those two in that match, the Acclaim made me believe, and that was the first time I actually treated them like an actual. They were no longer just a joke tag team; like they were legit, and like they were pulling stuff out. I was like, Anthony Bowens is out here doing things that I have yet seen him do, and him and Max Caster are working really well, and they made me believe that the Acclaim were going to win. And I love Keith Lee and Swerve. But when Swerve and Keith Lee retained their titles, I was mad. I was like, AEW, you cannot do this to me. How dare you make me believe in the Acclaim where I wasn't giving them any of my attention before. And then they pull off what was, my opinion, my match of the night for that whole entire pay per view. And I was so soured by the ending, and I was happy eventually, but I was like, the Acclaim should have won here and not at Grand Slam later, like a couple weeks later when they had that rematch. I'm like, you couldn't have let the Acclaim have their shining moment. Like,
Mm.
is this what we're doing? That I know it's really weird to say, but I was so upset by the ending of this match because initially I thought Swerve and Keith Lee were going to decimate the Acclaim. And then the Acclaim proved to be actually competent challengers. And then I wanted them to win. And then I was upset that we didn't get them to win. And then I was a little puzzled when they did win at Grand Slam, like literally 2 weeks later. I was like, why didn't you just let them win at the pay per view? It's fine. Ugh. And that wasn't even a main event, but that the Acclaim should have won there. That was a booking decision. I was like, I don't know, man.
Oh no. I guess I kind of just for me it's just all about the disappointing. Like I don't think anything tops night one of WrestleMania for me. That was just really disappointing for me. I think that's it. I mean, and anytime Max wins a match just annoys me too. Like just kind of one of those things. Like I don't
Yeah,
know. It's just one of those. Like
we don't.
I
Yeah,
feel like he's one of those guys who doesn't need the title, right? Like he's just had a really bad world title run, and I'm just like, you don't need the world title. You can just be Max. Like I feel like he's at the level where he's like Seth Rollins was 2 years ago, where he's so special. He could just go out there and beat MJF and it'll be perfect. But that title should be in use with other people right now. Like
I feel
God.
okay. I was just
No,
gonna
that's
say
it.
I feel like we're close to that point. Like, and I think part of it is with Adam Cole getting injured, them
Mhm.
having put the Ring of Honor tag team titles on them, everything that's happening. It seems like they're getting to some point where he's going to drop stuff. I mean, the fact that the diamond ring is, up for grabs. He's got these two titles and no partner to like deal with all that stuff. Like, I feel
Mhm.
like he's going to build to the point, like you were saying, like he's outside of the title picture because he's the top star without it.
Yeah, 100%. He's that guy. He's the main star in AEW right now. So no matter what you want to say, he's the guy. Yeah.
I agree. Uh, Andrew, same question to you. Has there been a match where on paper it should have been great, and then when you watched it, you're like, huh?
The first thing that came to my mind, and this is the only reason I would use it in this category, was the Moxley versus Omega exploding ring match.
Oh my
Yeah,
god,
that
Um,
was awful.
and
that ending soured it so bad.
yeah, and it's because no matter what, that's all I can picture from that match,
Yeah,
and that's for the for a match between those two people, that should not be the memory that I have of that match
agreed.
in any gimmick or style
Mhm.
that they want to have. So the fact that is all I can think of is it's like eating an incredible meal and you get to your last bite and you realize there's a band-aid underneath your steak or whatever. Like
Oh,
it's just I
yeah,
feel
that
like it
was
doesn't
pretty
matter.
bad.
Yeah,
I agree with you. That was one of those things where I can't remember a single thing about that match.
I literally purged it from my memory. I was just like, listen, I I will say Eddie Kingston trying to save it by selling the way he did afterwards, that was admirable. And I love the fact that he acknowledged it weeks later. Is like, yeah, that was a crappy ending.
Yeah,
But man, that was such a damper on what was a pretty phenomenal match until the end, and then the pyro didn't go off. I'm like,
it
damn.
was yeah,
Mhm.
it was like an angry fart. That's what we got at the end of that, and that was it.
Oh my
Like,
goodness. So
uh,
go ahead.
I was going to say, but you're talking about other disappointing matches. Um, the one that came up when you were talking about some of the WrestleMania matches, and it wasn't something on paper that I was looking forward to, at least not in the decade that it happened, was the Goldberg Undertaker, um, just horrendous match that we got of, you know, Goldberg
Are we
knocking himself out and then trying to kill the Undertaker.
Oh my
Was just it
listen,
was a
God,
why it was a why moment. Like, why is this even happening?
I've never been a fan. I
I
can't do it. I've never been a fan of either of really either. Like I'll rock with the Undertaker because he's a legend. But I remember when Goldberg lost. in at Starcade 98. I remember going to school the next day, and me and my brother were talking to some of the kids there, and they were like, "Who won?" Because we had like the scramble box, like the
Mm.
illegal cable box, right? And they were like, "Who won? Who won?" And we were like, "Kevin Nash won." And they were like, "What?" And they were getting so upset. And I remember me and Pat just looking at each other and then just like maniacally laughing like the Joker, just being like, "Yeah, that fucker lost." Like, we're so like, oh, I've just never been a fan of his. He
Yeah,
retired Bret Hart.
Oh
yeah,
my
that's hard. One of my really good friends, like we grew up watching wrestling together, and Goldberg
Mm.
was one of his favorites, and
Oh,
so it's like for him that I feel bad to see just after the streak how much just didn't like it just can continue like it
yeah.
just and yeah, and then the Bret Hart thing is just so unforgivable. It's such a shame, but
No, he still has one of my favorite moments in wrestling when he spears Bret and Bret's wearing the metal plate.
oh
and,
yeah,
then, and then he
yeah,
just like he turns him over, he covers him, and he takes off his like Toronto Maple Leafs
yeah,
like sweater, and he's got the metal plate on his stomach. Like I was like, man, Bret, you're such a good heel. People don't give you
yeah.
enough credit. Like he's just so good.
Oh god, like I
Brett,
said,
yeah,
go.
I swear, Mr. Perfect had me rooting for bad guys at such a young age. I don't he ruined my mind.
Well, people like Bret Hart though were like one of those people that could switch. Like he could be your world champion that like everyone was rooting for, and then
Mhm.
he could be that top heel that like was just like leading the pack and just
Oh yeah, his USA versus Canada stuff was amazing, man. Just amazing. Yeah.
oh my goodness. And then yeah, oof. Goldberg versus Undertaker. I'm just like, ooh, like that match was bad. Shawn Michaels and Triple H versus the Brothers of Destruction was really good.
Should have never happened. Sean should have
no.
My
never come out of retirement.
God, that match hurt me. And it's funny we say this because it's just like Crown Jewel, man, is just like it brings out like the not best matches ever. I'm like, why are we doing this? Like, it should. Uh, I know, I know, and we're gonna make a statement about it because Crown Jewel is happening for WWE like in a couple weeks. But yeah, we're not gonna we're not gonna
That's all right. We're gonna
review
get
it.
LA Knight versus Roman Reigns. It'll be good.
See, that's
Hey,
depressing.
if it wasn't for Crown Jewel, we wouldn't know who the greatest wrestler in the world was,
Oh my god, Shane McMahon. Yeah,
though.
it's just the best.
He comes out okay, look, like that made no sense to me. Just like it made no sense when he came out to WrestleMania, and I laughed my ass off in the audience when he literally tore a quad in the middle of that.
Yo, how
Literally,
Leapfrog.
fun how messed up is that his dad rushed to the ring during a Royal Rumble, tears both his quads, and then
Oh my
his son does the same thing in a WrestleMania ring. It's just like, "Que carajo pasó, yo?" Like, what happened? That was so funny. And to think that Snoop Dogg's not an actor or nothing, he just knew like,
he's
"Yup, I gotta make this a
hey,
thing."
he's
Like,
thinking, he's like, "Oh hell no!" Like literally improvise the whole
yo,
thing.
how you leave my boy Bobby Lashley off of fucking WrestleMania, and how
yeah.
how
Ooh,
Bobby Lashley doesn't come out to squash the Miz right there? Like that's the
oh my
perfect spot.
gosh,
Bring out Bobby Lashley, have him squash the Miz, have him squash Snoop Dogg, and that'd be great. Like, you
that
know?
oof. When they brought him out with the trophy and everything, that made me upset. I was just like, "What are we doing with Bobby? Like, this is." I mean, it's funny now because we look at where he is now, and I'm just like, back then I was just like, "What are we doing? Like, what is happening? I don't
Yeah.
understand all this. It's ridiculous."
Yeah.
Oh man,
Well,
it's
hopefully
ridiculous.
now with new creative, new old creative back in there, more of that nonsense won't be happening. We'll see.
We
Agreed.
hope so, and hopefully we can get some stellar matches on television. Like again, I Nick Aldis is I'm like looking at you sideways. I'm like, I get it, but like we'll see what happens. But we're getting Io versus Charlotte next week on SmackDown. We're getting Cody and Jay versus the Judgment Day round 2 for the tag titles. In 2 weeks on NXT Halloween Havoc. And yes, I will plug this match. Lyra versus Becky Lynch is going to be fucking fantastic.
Yup.
That video package they played on Tuesday made me cry. I was like, oh my God, this is how we do a video package. Like for reals.
You know what? Before we go, I have a
Uh-huh.
disappointing match. Tegan Knox versus Becky Lynch.
Oh my God. Okay, let's discuss because like the best
Yo,
way I could describe that match is like they were wrestling in slow motion the entire time, and I don't know why.
listen. You don't give us a month build. You don't give us a Tegan Knox video package showcasing her double ACL tear, showcasing her love and affection for Brie Larson and Captain Marvel and the higher, farther, faster, that moniker that the movie and the comic entails, and then have her go out there and total TV time give them like 7 minutes and 12 seconds. The match was clocked at 14 minutes, right? That's what we're told that they wrestled. No, we've been there. We've all been there to a Raw and SmackDown, right? You guys would say that, right? You've all been there. You know what it's like during like commercials. They're rest spots. They're rest spots until like the commercials turn back on. So they didn't actually work. They had 7 minutes. They had their entrances. They worked. There was a video package in between for some other schmoz promo or whatever. And then they got to work each other, and I was like, what is this shit? This is not the match I was wanting. This is not the match I wanted. This is the second time they've done this to Becky Lynch, who's been on a hot streak.
Oh my gosh, I was so disappointed with that match. And I'm just like, main roster again, main roster. I'm like, I don't know what we're doing. And obviously, somebody was listening because this Tuesday we're getting Lyra versus Tegan, which I'm hoping is awesome because I love
Sure
Tegan, I
will
love
be.
Lyra.
You
But
got to take
man,
that.
that
Yeah.
match was so disappointing.
You got to take it seriously with Becky holding the women's intercontinental title now. You got to make sure that like those matches got to be amazing. Like they need to be like awesome. And Becky Lynch has been on a hot streak ever since that street fight with Zoe.
Zoe,
She hasn't had a bad match, and then you give her that, and I'm just like, I don't understand what was the purpose. I went through and I rewatched the entire Raw, and there was like 7 or 8 segments or moments where I was like, this could have been cut to give them extra time.
okay, I want to pick a bone with WWE real quick because I'm like, I keep saying this in every review, and like I don't know if you boys can attest to this, but right now WWE is upsetting me in the sense that we're either in the middle of matches or we're like getting ready for matches, and then all of a sudden we go to commercial break, and then we come back, and it's like, all right, let's cut this promo backstage, and then here's the actual match. I'm like, what? What? Why are we having? Like it makes me upset because I'm like, okay, we're having entrances, but then we come back and then you cut like 3 promos backstage, and then we're getting into the match. I was like, no, stop it. You do the entrances, you do the match. Well, after the match is over, then if you want to do a string of promos and whatnot, you can. But like, ooh, I get so annoyed when we're getting ready for matches and then the backstage segments happen. I'm like, no, go back to the entrances. I actually like some of these entrances.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I mean,
Well,
that's like AEW. What was it? Rampage, I think it was that I just watched. It was one of them where it was like every single match went to picture in picture.
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I was. Listen, I didn't mind the first match going to picture in picture this week because literally I thought I was in Bizarro World because I'm like, wait a minute, didn't I see this first match on Rampage literally last week? Then I had to check my notebook and I was like, sure did, because this week we had the Hardys and Brother Zay take on the remnants of the Jericho Appreciation Society. And literally last week it was the Hardys and Best Friends taking on the remnants of JAS. I was like, why did we have this match again on Rampage? It's oof, it made me upset. And then, hold up, what else did we get on Rampage? I will say though, that promo between Santana and Ortiz, man, let me tell you. Let me tell you, I'm excited for when they come to blows.
Did you see my TikTok of the Puerto Rican TikTok? They are
Yes.
right now the most underrated feud in all of AEW. Nobody's talking about it. It's fucking nuts. I don't know if you saw if you follow me on TikTok or not, or if you just did the YouTube, but I posted a video the other night before going to work where I was talking about like Puerto Ricans taking over professional wrestling with Carlito being back and Damian Priest and Zelina. And I said, right now, quite possibly, we're witnessing the most underrated feud in AEW, which is Santana versus Ortiz. And they're most likely going to main event, whether it's a Dynamite or a Collision or whatever, but they're being hidden away on Rampage. And I'm just like, what is happening? This feud has been seriously, we've been talking about these two having beef for a year. And it's just that promo they just cut. Oh my God. He's like, I was a crutch for you. And he's like, that's right. And you're not anymore. And I don't need you. And I was like, yo, this feels so real. Like, it just feels so
I
real.
I really hope, like, there's a part of me that hopes that in this time leading up to this, that they have squashed all that in real life.
Yeah.
They've, moved on everything. They're going to have an insane match together. And at the end of it, they're going to earn each other's respect and get
Yep.
back together because I want that tag team back so bad.
Me too.
Oh,
That was my favorite tag team. I remember when I first started watching AEW, like I mean, I started watching from night one, but when they debuted them as a tag team, I jumped on pro wrestling shirts, like the pro wrestling tees, and I bought that Proud and Powerful shirt immediately. Like I was like, "Yo, how could I not have this? This is amazing. These are my boys. They're from New York. Like, no way. I needed to represent these guys." And then to find out they just kind of like broke up. I was like, what is this shit? Like, I've been waiting my whole life to have this real popular Puerto Rican team, and you guys just break up. I'm like,
and they were
damn,
at the top too.
yeah.
They were
All
like
this.
top four tag teams in AEW at one point. Like it was them, the Young Bucks, like all
Mhm.
those folks running around like fighting for that title, and they were up there, dude. Like, ah,
Oh my god. Yeah, but I've always thought to myself, I was like, damn man, Proud and Powerful is that team that could take this into the next level because Impact, they used LAX the right way. Like
yes.
when you had Homicide and Hernandez, and I was just like, here we go. Like, this is the way to do it. I thought we were gonna redo this, like right here with Eddie Kingston and Santana and Ortiz. I was like, we got like LAX all over again. All we're missing is Homicide and Low Key. Like, let's go. Let's bring this whole Puerto Rican faction together. I was like, let's do it. And then, obviously, let me tell you, growing up having a brother like this beef that they got, this is real. Like I don't know even know how to say it. This is real. But
Bro,
that's what I
even their
mean. Think,
promos are so real. Like 2 weeks ago on
but
Rampage, like I literally wrote word for word for Ortiz, like the one that's like
yup,
Ortiz's little promo is like this. I literally wrote it down. This tough guy persona that you claim to have, the dog, the gangsta. This is a defense mechanism for the fragile little kid that you are on the inside. Karma took one knee. I'm gonna take the other. I'm like, holy shit.
yo, I swear that the way they're and I gotta just say, as someone who as someone who's watching this from afar and just like really enjoying this, whether anybody wants to look this far into it or maybe I'm just reading too much into it, this makes Matt and Nick look awful. It makes them look awful because Santana and Ortiz, they were off TV. They were kept away from each other because they had beef and they decided, yeah, we don't like each other right now, but let's go make some money. And Matt and Nick could have done the same thing with Punk and they refused to. They were like, nah. Even Roman Reigns said the same thing. Like his interview's been coming up where he was asked, would you welcome Punk back? And he's like, I don't like the guy. I don't think many people do. But if it's what the fans want, if it's to make money, I'll work with them. Like, come on, man. Like, what is this shit? It's just one of those things where it's like everything that happens in AEW just makes Rocker's light look just worse. That's kind of what I look at it like. That's just what it is. I don't know.
Oh my goodness. I mean, we could have a whole nother episode where we just talk about like that fine balance between being a wrestler and then being a part-time owner of a company, like,
But it used to
that's
be like that. Like, I
yeah.
don't know. I don't know if you guys are in your, like, 20s or early 30s or what, but, like, when I was growing up, lots of wrestlers hated each other. Like, it was normal. Like, I don't understand. Samoa Joe once got into a fight with Kevin Nash backstage at Impact because he trashed Scott Hall on the microphone because Scott Hall no-showed.
Yeah.
And neither one of them got fired or suspended. They just worked. Like, it was just like Kevin Nash got angry. You shouted at my friend like live on television, and Joe's like, "So what? He needs to be here." Like, that's just what it is. Neither one got fired. Nobody got suspended. Like, it's nuts to me, man. Nobody cuts a promo to the audience in Chicago and says, "I feared for my life." Like, what is this shit?
That was listen, again, we can have a whole nother episode talking about everything that's going on in all these companies.
Yep.
And literally, that's one of my what the fuck moments is when Tony Khan came out after Punk got let go. I was like, listen, I give the man credit because like he was brave, but yeah, that was not great.
Oh. I actually think that Joe commenting after it, saying that he didn't think it was that tense, when like a couple weeks later, I was like, that makes Tony Khan look like a liar. Like where he's like, I didn't think it was that bad. I've been in harsh or tenser situations than that. And it was just like, you let one of your talents just go like, bro, you stop people from defending Swole, but then you let Samoa Joe go out there and call you a liar in so many words. It's just like, you got to run your company right, man. Like, what is this shit?
I don't
You
know,
know,
man. Like
I'll still take a job though, Tony. Just in case you're watching.
seriously,
Yeah.
listen, you should hire us Bi-Conics boys. Listen, honestly, if I had to honestly, as of right now, because Triple H is in charge of creative, like at this point, I would be okay with going to work and booking WWE. But I'm like, listen, Hunter, Tony, Scott Demore, and Gail Kim, like if you want to hire the Bi-Conics boys to help do some booking, do some writing, like I'm not gonna say no. Just just reach out, be like, hey.
Yo, Billy Corgan, I'm a fan of your music. Bring me in right away. What would
Listen, I would
he asked
love
me
to
what would
work
it
in the
take to bring
WWE.
me in? I'm like, we're bringing in Johnny Impact, and we're making him the top star. That's here we go. We're starting with him. Like that's what I'm doing. Like, you
Oh my
know.
goodness. I listen, I would be here for just hire the Biconics boys. We promise between the 9 of us, like we will make sure that your show is great. I mean, I'm pretty good at writing. We have a bunch of people who are good at booking. Literally Andrew is our tag team expert here. Like have him oversee the tag team division. Like
Yep. I'll be happy just being a producer like Jason Jordan, just helping put matches together. I'm good. That's it.
I would love it. Well, on that note, gentlemen, this has been a really fun episode of the podcast. When we come back with the next episode, who knows what we'll talk about then. I mean, listen, depending on when it is in November, we either might be talking before or after Survivor Series, so we may or may not be discussing whether how great it was or how disappointed it was. Because listen, WWE right now is having a really tough time this year with their big four pay-per-views being very underwhelming, or there's something that messes it up. Because Rumble was okay, WrestleMania overall was great. Night one was definitely better than night two. SummerSlam was a wet fart that happened. I
That
was
was
like,
yeah. SummerSlam was bad. I think Survivor Series is going to be good though. I got
I
faith.
hope, I hope
Isn't
so.
it War Games?
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
plan. I
yeah.
was like, listen, if there is no War Games match at Survivor Series, I'm like, I'm not watching. I'm just kidding. I'll probably
They've booked
watch it.
themselves into a corner. If War Games doesn't, if Cult of Personality doesn't play at War Games, people are just going to riot like in 2015 Rumble. They don't have a
Oh,
choice. They need to give this man a job just because they let the rumor happen.
yeah, that's a whole nother conversation we could have. Like WWE, stop playing these games out here with people because
Mhm.
we fans will turn on you in a heartbeat. But that does bring us to the end of this episode of the Biconics Wrestling Podcast. Stay tuned for the next one where we'll pretty much talk about anything and everything. And I'm excited because I'm hoping that more of the guys come here because this was pretty tamed. I'm not gonna lie. Normally, it's a lot more chaotic than it is.
There's a lot of
Man,
appreciation for three really good Forbidden Door cards
Yeah, that's
and
what it is. Yeah,
possibilities. You know,
absolutely. Yeah. I'm gonna try to go find some of these matches and see if any of them exist.
oh, seriously, that's the extra credit assignment to see if any of these actually exist, and we're just
Yeah.
like we forgot about them or whatever.
I mean, it definitely makes me want to go watch some Eddie and Brett
Hell yeah.
Oh,
matches just
seriously.
again,
Oh
just
my goodness.
reminisce.
Be like back in my day.
Yeah.
Well, to give you both a preview. So, out of the 9 of us, 8 of us are over the age of 30. There's only one of us that is under the age of 25. Like that's the age range we're working with here.
Okay.
So, but collectively all of us know our present and our past wrestling, so it's so great. But that is going to be the it for this episode of the Bi-Conics Wrestling Podcast. Stay tuned for the next one where we talk about more wrestling, whatever we decide to talk about. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe to where all podcasts can be found: Apple Music, Spotify. We're pretty much everywhere. Um, if you want to see more week by week breakdowns of your favorite wrestling TV shows, make sure to check us out at the Bi-Conics Wrestling Podcast YouTube channel, where we pretty much cover every single TV show known to the wrestling world and the pay per views and anything else that we can think of. Listen, wrestling is a lot, and the 9 of us are very passionate about what we do. And then, of course, if you want to see behind the scenes shenanigans as well as updates on when everything goes live, make sure to follow us all over the social medias at BC WrestlePod. Also, just shameless plug. He didn't know I was going to do this, but if you want to see our other Biconics boys and the projects they're working on, you can also check out Must Love Wrestling podcast, where our lovely co-host Luis is out here putting in the wrestling gods of work out here with all the new
Oh,
content and everything he got going on. So listen, we at the Biconic support each other's in our projects outside of this. And listen, you can never go wrong with more wrestling content in the world. That's my firm belief.
yeah. I appreciate you
But
guys.
listen, we support each other here, and I love this little family of 9 that we got going on. But until the next time, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, stay Biconic, you beautiful bastards. But until then, see you later.